Hello. Welcome to Almost 30 Podcast.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. It's your girls, Krista and Lindsay. We are here in LA, baby.
We're in our studio setup. We updated the studio setup a little bit. Needed a zhuzh.
We haven't been together in LA in over a year.
Wow. When was the last time you were here?
March.
Okay.
Was it March?
What were you doing?
Of 2023. We did a shoot. We did some recordings. I was pregnant.
Oh my God.
We did that shoot in that space downtown.
For the invitation.
Yes.
Stop it right now.
We're like, we need bouquets of baby's breath to hold.
Honestly.
Someone get baby's breath. We have a concept.
I need a neutral background. I need rounded edges.
I didn't fit into any of my clothes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was fun. Mm-hmm.
That was over a year ago. Funny. This is what's funny. Thinking about that shoot, it's like almost like, in college where you're dressed in like a BCBG like bandage dress or like, and then you're wearing 20-inch heels and you're at like a piece of shit bar with like sticky floors and wood paneling. It's almost like the shoots were like that, where it's like we're in some warehouse wearing like a full look.
Totally.
And it doesn't really make sense.
Doesn't make sense.
And it's not, and this is the thing, same with the college thing. That's not who you are because you're wearing leggings and like a pullover every other day. Uh-huh. And then you're going to go full out.
Completely.
Like it was just like, we look like nothing and then we're full out for the shoot.
Dude, the platform heels that we used to get.
Oh my God. I used to be like 6'1".
Easy.
I
just remember they were like coveted. Like if I would
oh yeah,
spend money that I didn't have on these stupid ass heels that would leave the balls of my feet numb 1 hour in. And just feel like hot shit. So hot.
It's so interesting. I don't know where I got the confidence to be so tall when I'd be out. Like I had met someone who was super tall that I ended up dating. And I remember when I first met him years ago, I was wearing flats. And then the second time I was wearing like ultra high heels. So I was honestly like 6'1" and he was like 6'4". And he was like, dude, I mean, when I met you, I was like, how tall is this girl? Like, he was like, I just like had no idea. And I was like, no, it was my monster heels.
Wow.
But heels were, I don't know if it was because we were influenced by Sex and the City or what, but there was like a massive heel movement.
And just how quickly they would become like decimated by going out. Like the points of the heel would be like gnawed off as if like a rodent gnawed them, but it would just be walking around.
It would be full silver screw.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oftentimes I would have that. I remember too, I was living in Chicago and I was at my management consulting job and I spent a fourth of a paycheck on Louboutins.
Oh, wow.
Because Louboutins were in. And I wore them to go see someone I'd been dating, thinking that he would care that I was wearing Louboutins. This man was, what? You know what I mean? And I remember just walking around, they hurt so bad. I don't even know if they were the right size. They hurt so bad. And I just remember being like, this was not worth it.
Wow.
Because also, too, it was the whole time you're wearing them and you're like, I hope someone sees me flip my little heel.
I mean, so many times I would buy things in college, again, with money I didn't have, that I wanted the wrong people to notice who would never notice.
Was your school, my school was people were pretty well off.
Absolutely.
So there was a lot of brands. There was like a lot
there
of
was
things.
a lot of there was like, I felt pressure.
Oh yeah.
To like kind of keep up with the Joneses a little bit. Every week and get like at least one new going out top. Like my parents were like, what are you doing?
I know.
I'm like, what do you mean? This is part of college life.
I was like, I need this peplum. And these skinny jeans.
I need this bubble dress stat.
Yes, I need this now. It was, I wonder if people feel that much pressure now. And ours, it's interesting because I don't know if this was yours. Mine was preppy, but I was never a preppy person. So I was actually grateful because a lot of the people that had money dressed really preppy, Vineyard Vines, like all that type of thing. But that was never my style. So I kind of was like, didn't feel pressure to wear that.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not going to wear like a bunch of hot pink crabs on like a sundress.
I feel like there was pockets of that, like people who like would go to the Vineyard or like Nantucket.
Yeah.
But like, I just remember it was like the short, tight dresses, either the bubble dress or like the bandage dress with the heels. But then like the casual during the week would be like your oversized, like Ralph Lauren, rugby polo with leggings and Uggs.
Uggs, of course. Of course.
Yes.
Of course. What was that thing? That was such an interesting time too, because you really didn't want to stand out. But you did, because like with all the clothes, you would see other people wear stuff and that would give you permission to wear stuff.
Yeah.
Like everything was not original.
It's not like you're going to NYU where everyone's like having their own unique fashion show every day and it's like celebrated.
That would be hard though.
Yeah.
To live that life.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I see what you're saying now. Like definitely at BC, people were like blending in with whatever was cool.
Yes. It was funny. The other day I was talking to my friends and they were doing this thing where they like describe your style in 3 words. And everyone was describing their style. And one of my friends goes, well, I'd say yours. And they like point to me. They're like, yours is like vintage. I was like, what? I've never worn vintage in my life. I'm not cool enough to wear vintage.
I know. It's a cool thing.
It's cool
to get vintage right. That I have never done that either.
I don't have time.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a passion for people where they can find like vintage pieces,
I love
put them together. I'm like, I would love a stylist to do that for me.
Not my journey. And they said vintage. I was like,
oh, that's hilarious. I wonder what they've seen of you that they thought was vintage.
I was wearing like I have no idea where that came from. And then another friend, this was another time, another friend did this game another time. And I'm like, guys, we need to like
new game,
get off the trend. And she goes, and someone's like, oh, what would you describe your style? And this girl goes, subdued porn star.
Undercover.
All my friends were like, are y'all fighting?
Wow.
They were like,
wait, about you?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
They're like, are y'all okay? I was like, dude, what was that about? Like,
subdued porn star.
Subdued porn star.
I don't take offense.
I mean, it's not my favorite.
It's not my favorite.
Someone say modern. Someone say chic.
Yeah.
Someone say
Mm-hmm.
I said mine is
star.
A little sporty. Fitted. Now modern.
Yeah.
I forget what the other one was. What's yours?
That's a great question. I think
mom.
Now I'm going to mom. I think it's like, because I've been thinking about this a little bit when we do have to kind of like get dressed for stuff.
Yeah.
Because I just don't have the time or energy to like get things that I'm not going to wear again. Or it just feels weird to me now. Otherwise, like before I'd be like, yeah, I'll wear that once or twice and move on. But I'm like, I want classic pieces. I'm
canceling you.
Yeah. I want classic pieces that like are good quality. So this isn't describing my style, but I think there's like a modern classic with like a little edge.
Yeah, that's a good one. Modern classic
that I've
with an edge.
had. And
I would say before you were tomboy,
for sure.
It was like kicks and like
always sneaks with something.
Yeah, sneaks in something.
But like a little, you'd like see a little femme somewhere. In the outfit.
Yes,
but
it's like kind of like lesbian.
Totally. That's
and
like
mine. And mine was like body insecure.
Yeah, it's been a journey. But I do love, and I think you do too, like I do love fashion. I think it's so fun and cool and like it brings out parts of my personality at times that I'm like, oh, I fucking love this.
You know what's funny is I realized this about me is I never want to claim that I love something that I know that there's levels to that I'm like not far in. So an example, me being like, I love fashion. And that feels like a weird commitment to me because I'm like, I love to dress myself, but I don't know if I would say I have good style. I like to dress myself. I have my own unique perspective, but I honestly wouldn't say I know a lot about fashion.
Yeah, same.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would say I just like to dress myself.
It's almost
well.
like a medium of expression that I'm like, oh, this is kind of fun.
Yeah.
At times. But then like catch me probably 70% of the time and I'm in sweats. And
I was at a dinner the other night and there was this set I was wearing and all the girls were like, oh my God, is that Chris? Like whatever. And they were asking the brand and I was like too insecure. I was like, I think it is. And I was like,
think so.
Naked fat. I was like, dupe.
You're like, my stylist got it for me. I don't know.
Literally those words almost came out of my mouth and I was like, girl, stop.
Stop the lies.
And I wanted to like Google how much it was.
Oh my God.
Okay. So today On Almost 30, we have Lauren Papanos. She is amazing. This is such a good conversation that was inspired by the episode that my dear friend Olivia on What's the Juice podcast did with Lauren. And I just found so much of her information and her approach so grounded and helpful and interesting. She is such an expert. So this is going to be a very tactical and tangible conversation about fitness, about hormones, about cycle syncing, and about really nourishing yourself in a way that's going to support you and getting the optimal results from all of your workouts. So she is a functional dietitian. She is the founder of Functional Fueling. She is the host of Strength and Hormones podcast, and she specializes in thyroid, reproductive hormones, and performance. And she's just a wealth of information. So I was really interested in kind of breaking down something that I look over normally, which is related to my workouts. I think for you and for many people that are listening, work out quite a bit, 3 to 4 or 5 times a week, however much. And I realized that I wasn't really fueling myself in the right way to support myself and having really effective workouts. I wasn't thinking about myself as like an athlete, as someone that's like interested in making progress in my body, interested in making progress in my fitness and my performance. And so how could I really rethink the sort of structure I have in place around my workouts, and how would I fuel myself better? How could I think more mindfully about my workouts? So it was just great to really understand what sort of things we need before a workout, what we need after, what type of workouts we should be doing on which days. And I realized that berries is not super good.
Tell me more.
So she was talking about how when you're doing a workout like berries, where it's running and then strength, that those are 2 different systems. And you should really be doing a strength day and then a cardio day separately. And so really breaking those up is going to give your body better chance to recover and better results, because then you're working in that specific system.
Yeah.
And I think I've seen that too with people that are really into workouts, that they don't mix.
Yeah, they have specific days
Yes.
for specific things. I've never been like amazing about that. But yeah, I mean, when I would do berries, I think at the time I just thought it was effective because I was like so gassed by the end. And like ultimately you would burn calories. So that's like something that's happening. But yeah, I never felt like, wow, I'm getting like strong in this way, or, none of the functional things happening.
Yeah, you can't really tell the strength or whatever, but I have noticed that berries, that my performance is a lot better. It's been interesting in the past year since taking the peptides from Joy, the ipamorelin before, and then ceramorelin now, and then NAD, and then B12 and vitamin D with them. And I'm going to try some other ones upcoming that I don't know if they're like copper, I don't even know, but how my performance has been so much better in the gym. Yeah. Like I feel faster, I feel like stronger, I feel like less tired. It's been really, really beautiful. But something else that I thought was so interesting that we talked about that was just so easy to apply to our lives that people can do today. I didn't know that Element, as like the hydration packet that sponsors Almost 30, we've been working with them forever. They now have sparkling hydration beverages too, but it's pretty much just a hydration packet you can put in your water. It's pretty much salt. That can help to balance your hormones pre and post workout. So if you're doing a hard workout, it'll spike your cortisol, but having an Element packet will help reduce the cortisol spike. So you can be like in a less cortisol elevated state post workout.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that cool?
Really interesting.
I know.
That's a fact that I will
take that to the bank.
I will take that with me to the next Element ad spot.
100%. Literally.
No, that's really good.
Isn't that good? It was just so tactical. I was like, all right, now I'm doing this for my work. Like this is such a great one.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this episode because I crave these types of podcasts where like I'm going to walk away with like 5 to 10 gems that I will never forget.
Yes.
And I will incorporate in my life like today.
Yes.
Which is so nice. Sometimes we have like that more cerebral pod for you, but then also these that are so tactical are like
amazing. Yeah, it's fun to talk about fitness and nutrition too, because I think it's such a big part of most of our lives, and really just getting the most out of it. Because if you're already going and you want results, this is the things that you need to do. So thank you so much, Lauren, for coming on. She was so sweet. She drove in from San Diego. You can find more information about her at functional.fueling on Instagram. It's functional.fueling. Fueling. Her name is Lauren Papanos again, and she is the founder of Functional Fueling, and she's the host of Strength and Hormones podcast.
Awesome, Lauren. Okay. Enjoy this episode. If you're new to Almost 30, be sure to subscribe to the show. We have new episodes every single week. We have not skipped a week in almost 8 years.
That's crazy.
So you
guys.
have almost 700 episodes to listen to right now.
How have we not been canceled?
We keep it going. And make sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok. We have incredible content there. It's at Almost 30 Podcast.
Love you guys so much. You can find me on Instagram. It's Krista with a K.
And I'm at Lindsay Simsick.
Love you guys.
Later. I'm always looking for ways to improve my fitness and metabolism. Your girl is back in the gym, okay? And in the last, I think it's almost 2 years now, I've been taking Armra Colostrum. Yes, I know you've probably seen this brand or the hype around colostrum, and let me explain. So colostrum is the first nutrition we receive in life, and it contains all of the essential nutrients our body needs in order to thrive. And Armra Colostrum is a proprietary concentrate of bovine colostrum that harnesses over 400 living bioactive ingredients that strengthens, get this, the barriers of your body and fuel your cellular health for thousands of research-backed health benefits. It is pretty remarkable. This can activate hair growth. It fortifies your gut health. It really, really has added to my skin like radiance. It powers your fitness performance and recovery and has a lot of anti-aging benefits as well. Now, I've gotten a lot of questions about this. This is premium bovine colostrum concentrate, and unlike any other product on the market, it is very uniquely optimized for human health, sustainable, and was developed with the highest integrity from start to finish. This is the overflow from the bovine colostrum. So the calf is getting all that they need, and this is the overflow. But I'm very excited for you to try this. I've had a lot of people who I've recommended this to try it and say things like, oh my gosh, like this has been amazing for my immunity. Like I haven't been sick this season. People have noticed a difference in their hair and skin and nails. So I'm excited for you. We've worked out a special offer for our audience. You can receive 15% off your first order when you go to tryarmra.com/almost30, or you can enter the code almost30 to get 15% off your first order. That's tryarmra.com/almost30. Okay, I just updated my subscription at Symbiotica. Y'all, if you haven't heard of Symbiotica, I am so excited to tell you about it. It is my favorite supplement brand. I mean, they are just doing it right. Clean, innovative formulas. I just love how transparent they are about where they source their ingredients, high quality products that are effective and safe. And I am a huge fan. But I recently updated my subscription because I wanted to add, in addition to the vitamin D3K2 that I get every month, I added the nootropic creamer. It's an advanced superfood from Symbiotic. Honestly, they read my mind. They have actualized some of my dreams. This is a nootropic creamer that I add to my coffee or matcha. It enhances memory, mood, attention, and learning, and improves cognitive performance. It slows the release of caffeine, which is amazing. I've noticed the difference when I add it to my coffee. I also think it is just such a great add to the organic matcha that Symbiotica also has. It has alpha GPC, MCT oil, L-theanine, and L-tyrosine. Y'all, this is major. I've been wanting an incredible creamer. They did it for me. I also love their vitamin D3K2. This is great for immune health. And if you're someone, honestly, you're probably not getting enough vitamin D where you live, unless you're like very close to the equator. So make sure you're getting your supplementation of vitamin D. This is a great one. It's liposomal delivery. It tastes amazing. And I also love their magnesium L-threonate. This crosses the blood-brain barrier. It improves your memory. It balances your mood, calms your central nervous system. I love this one. It is a vanilla cream flavor. And again, liposomal delivery, like this liquidy, easy, just yummy way to get your supplements. Last like hype up I'm going to share about Symbiotica. Y'all, they have home care and it is incredible. They have laundry detergent. They have hand soap. They have a cleaning spray. It is so clean, non-toxic, safe for you, safe for your kids, and actually works. And I'm excited for you to try. We, of course, have a discount. We love this brand so much. We've had Shervine, one of the founders, on the podcast many, many times, some of our most popular episodes. So check that out. You can save up to 20% off site wide with our code almost30. Go to symbiotica.com/almost30. That's CYMBIOTIKA.com/almost30 and use the code almost30 for 20% off site wide.
Lauren, I'm so excited to have you. We've already been talking quite a bit about stuff that I'm writing notes down, wanting to double click on. And I'm really excited because I haven't talked about health and nutrition in a while on the podcast. We haven't really gone in from a science perspective on a lot of this stuff. And I think for me, I've changed so much in my journey of what I'm doing and how I'm approaching my health and nutrition. Yeah. And I think this is just going to be so refreshing and you're so knowledgeable. So I'm so excited.
I'm so excited.
So I want to start the first part of our conversation talking about fitness, talking about working out, and talking about how we can optimize workouts. And then also too, kind of exploring the way that people are working out today, the way that women are working out today, because I think you've also seen it, but it's so funny because growing up, people weren't really working out the way that they are, or at least the women that are in our community that are mostly listening. And now it's a huge part of people's lives where they're going to 9 to 5, they're doing all the things, and then they're also working out multiple times a week doing high intensity workouts. And I don't know if we are taking the time to really optimize those workouts, first of all, or really refuel or refeed or take care of our body when we're doing that much intensity in our workouts. And I'm saying this as someone that's doing that. So what is it that you're seeing with women as they approach workouts today? And where do you think we could do better as far as our mindset and then the practices that we're enlisting?
Yeah, I think it really comes down that less really is more sometimes. And it's more so about efficiency and how you can optimize what you're doing in those moments that you are there than just doing more and more. And I've been victim of this. When I was dealing with my own hormone imbalances, I was working out 6 days per week. And I thought that the longer I spent at the gym or the more sweat that I had in my body, that the more effective that workout was, the fitter it was going to make me, the better I was going to look, and all of the X, Y, and Z that comes after, right? And it just so wasn't true. And it took a while of rewiring and making these small, subtle changes to be able to see that I could actually do a third of what I was doing before and really optimize what I was doing in that time frame and work with my hormones, improve how I was working out to better optimize my hormones, and that everything was going to follow suit. My digestion was going to improve, my cycles were going to improve, my skin was going to improve, so on and so forth. So I really just see that a lot of women believe that more is more and that they have to do so much every single week. And that ends up backfiring in so many ways because they also are working a lot. They maybe have a family. Their nervous system is just taxed. There's just so much that they're requiring of their body every day. And we have to remember that exercise is a stressor. And although it's a good stressor, it is a stressor on the body. And so when we're thinking about, okay, how is my body handling the current stressors in my life? We have to ask the question of, am I doing too much in my workouts? Is it too much volume, too much intensity? Could I optimize this to work better with my overall stress load?
I think it's what I've noticed, and I don't know if you remember in your journey when you kind of were doing too much, it was almost like I had to look at the patterns that I was enlisting in my workout routines, and I was almost doing it on autopilot, where I would schedule all my workouts for the week without checking in with my body. I would just think, my mind would say, I need to do these things, and my mind would be the one that would be leading my workouts and leading what I was doing rather than my body and rather than checking in and being intuitive. But you mentioned about how you can work with your hormones, with your workouts. What would be a way that people could support their hormones with their workouts? And what is the role of hormones in our workout schedules?
Sure. So exercise is incredible for insulin sensitivity, which is one really important hormone that improves our blood sugar. Insulin is really the counter-regulatory hormone to our blood sugar response. We know blood sugar drives everything from PCOS to insulin resistance to inflammation issues, so on and so forth. So the more muscle we have, the more our body actually disposes of sugar at rest. So it actually makes us more sensitive to being able to consume carbohydrates and them not causing problems. It disposes about 80% of glucose. So it's incredibly important for that. Strength training also in particular regular, if it's the right volume of strength training, somewhere around the 8 rep range at about like 80% of your maximum intensity. So say you were doing a squat, if you can squat 200 pounds for 1 repetition, then 80% of that, that's about what we're looking at. Those workouts and that intensity, they create the best growth hormone and testosterone response. And that then feeds into supporting things like our estrogen levels and so on and so forth. So there is a fine balance, but we also have to look at that exercise also, like I said, is a stressor. And so we do get a cortisol response from some of these higher intensity workouts. And so we have to be making sure that we're not doing too much of these high cortisol workouts and that we have movement that's integrated into the week that's actually functioning to help our body recover and helping to be able to bring down that cortisol response so that we're not constantly in this state of fight or flight in everything we're doing in our life.
Yeah, I want to double click on that because it's like, I think about the women in our community and a lot of women in my life and the women at large. And most of them are running at a very high stress level. Most of them are doing a lot and burning out. And I would think even that the level of stress that they're at and the cortisol level that they're at, that it wouldn't even make sense for them to be working out because they're already in a state where it's too much. So what do you say to that?
That's possible there. And I think that's where you have to look at is what is the phase of life that I'm in? And there's been phases of my life where I've literally just walked for 2 months straight because I knew that my cortisol was already through the roof. My nervous system couldn't handle anything more than that. And that's just a decision that I had to make when looking at all the other stressors in my life, right? So you do have to really evaluate. I almost think of it as like a month-to-month basis. It's kind of checking in with yourself and asking, what is my overall stress load? Like, what is my psychological stress? What is my family stress? How am I nourishing my body? Because nutrition is also potentially a stress if we're not fueling our body sufficiently. And ask all those questions for yourself, check in, and then game plan, okay, what are my workouts going to look like? How am I going to adjust my exercise to really work with that stress response rather than adding more and just continuing to press on despite the stress that I feel?
Wow, you said nutrition could be a stress.
Yeah.
How?
Well, in so many different ways. I mean, one of them is just how much you're consuming in a day. So one of the biggest issues we see with hormonal dysfunction, especially with women that have things like hypothalamic amenorrhea, where they're not having a menstrual cycle or a regular cycle, or hypothyroidism, is just inadequate caloric intake. So they're just not consuming enough energy and they're expending too much. We have to remember that you don't just expend energy through movement, through exercise. You need energy for your brain to work, for all of your organs to work. So if we're not putting in enough fuel to be able to support all those systems, our reproductive system is voluntary. It's going to shut off. It's going to say, I'm taking a nap because you're not giving me the energy and resources that I need to function. So that's one potential area.
Really quick before you finish on that, because so many women don't have their periods. And I swear to you, it's all the women I know that are not eating enough. What is the percentage? And I know you probably can't say 100%. What is the percentage of not guarantee, but how likely is it that that is the reason why they don't have a period?
It's, I would say 99%.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I rest my case.
And it's a process. Once you've lost a menstrual cycle, you can't just say, okay, I'm going to, start eating more. And then 1 month later, your cycle comes back. Like it is repetition of our body feeling safe again.
Wow.
And that takes time for you to establish that. You've got to get your body out of fight or flight. And that's looking at exercise, your lifestyle, what you're eating, all of those factors.
Wow. Okay. So nutrition can be a stress because people might not be eating enough, and then that might be causing them stress. They might be shutting down their hormone cycle. What else could it be doing?
Not getting enough minerals. So minerals are how we actually regulate our hormone production. So if we aren't getting in enough sodium and potassium and magnesium, all of those are incredibly important to helping be able to sensitize our cells to hormones. So for example, we know that like too much calcium desensitizes our thyroid cells. Not enough potassium, or not having enough potassium essentially does the same thing. So we want to make sure that we're getting enough potassium to be able to help sensitize those cells to thyroid hormones. But also when our body is under stress, we lose more minerals. So the higher your cortisol level is, the more sodium you lose and the more magnesium that you lose. And that's one of the reasons why everyone always talks about how important things like magnesium glycinate are, right? Because that's so many people are stressed that people don't have enough magnesium because they're burning through all of that magnesium as their adrenals are using it to make more and more of these stress hormones.
That's why I'm so obsessed with magnesium. It's just fueling my stress addiction. I literally am always like, people are like, what's your number one health thing? I'm like, magnesium. Wow, that must be what's happening. And it's interesting too, because you said about calcium. I had high calcium levels at one point, impacted my thyroid levels. And then it's interesting too with our periods, because I know that if I'm very regular, but around my cycle, I'll intuitively have more minerals, and it will help create like a healthier cycle for me. I notice the blood is a lot different when I have that.
Well, I mean, thyroid hormones are so incredibly important for progesterone production, and progesterone is the hormone that you make in that luteal phase, that between ovulation and before starting your period. And the better progesterone production you have, not only do you have less PMS symptoms, you have less prostaglandins, which are the inflammatory chemicals that create things like cramps and headaches and painful bleeding, all of those symptoms. So we really want to think about, when we're talking about our cycle, is not just do we have enough things like estrogen, progesterone, but really do we have enough thyroid hormones too? Wow.
I want to save that hormone conversation, the cycle conversation, for a little bit, because I don't want to leave the nutrition workouts just yet. So we have women that are doing too much, doing less is going to be better for them. Focusing on recovery as well is going to be better for them. What does recovery look like? And what is like the optimal way that you think that women should be focusing on their recovery if they're doing like 3 to 5 workouts a week?
Yeah. So the best setup that I've seen work in hundreds of thousands of women is that you're doing a workout that is intentional towards building muscle that's going to help with that insulin sensitivity. Say that you do it on a Monday, and then you allow yourself 24 to 48 hours and before you do that workout again. So if you would be resistance training, then that might set up to be like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Monday, Thursday, Saturday, something like that, right? And then in between those resistance day workouts, that's where you're doing something that's helping with supporting that cortisol response, helping support the nervous system. So I really like zone 2 aerobic exercise. It's just a moderate form of aerobic exercise that doesn't create a big cortisol response because there's no carbohydrate that's needed for your body to fund that exercise.
Yeah. What's an example of that?
Yeah. So like I usually do mine as an incline walk, but you could also do it as like a walk jog type situation. Generally running, if you're just doing continuous running, that's too high. You're usually in like heart rate zone 3 or 4, which with the zone 2, we're talking about like a heart rate zone where you could maintain a conversation with someone and you could breathe solely through your nose and keep your lips totally pierced and be able to complete the workout. So it is a little bit more challenging than like going on a walk, going on a stroll, but definitely not as challenging as going to like a workout class, going to a cycling class, all of those types of things. So it's somewhere in the middle there. Some people like to do it on a bike. You could also do some type of like circuit that's very low impact, that's not creating too much like muscular fatigue as well. So that's what that could look like. It could also be an opportunity to do something like yoga or do some like soft tissue release, something that's also helping with that nervous system down regulation, helping to be able to just kind of flush everything, right? And really support flexibility, mobility, and get you to a place to where you're feeling relaxed and really feeling like the soreness has dissipated, and then you can resistance train again a couple days later.
For women listening, how could they tell if their nervous system is at a healthy state or not?
There's a couple of signs that I usually tell people to look for. This can be things that you look for within like your workout specifically to see if they're too much. So one of those could be that you are doing workouts like your resistance training. Say you're lifting weights, you are working with a personal trainer, you're going to workout classes, and you're pushing yourself, but you're not actually seeing any outcomes. You're not seeing that you're getting any stronger. You're not being able to run faster. You are not seeing any body composition changes. You're just kind of flat, right? Like everything's just flatlined and you're just kind of going through the motions with those workouts. That can be one sign. Another one that I see, and this is in particular with a lot of women that have autoimmune conditions that are especially in like a very big flare, is that after those workouts, they feel worse than before the workout. So they feel like they need to take a nap the rest of the day, or they feel like they're on the verge of getting sick. Sometimes people feel this after things like sauna too, because sauna is very similar to exercise in that It creates a cardiovascular response. It creates a stress response too. So that could also be something to look for. Those are indicators that it's just too much for your body. Your body cannot handle that. We need to look at either not exercising, which I don't really recommend that. I think movement is beneficial for all people, but maybe it's looking at something like a walk or just a more gentle form of movement that's going to meet you where you are until you can support the healing response.
So you're saying walking is a workout?
It definitely can be, and it's movement, and it's a natural form of movement. I think that's what's so huge is that as humans, that's the first thing we ever did is we walked, and it's what our body innately is going to be able to do. And I just think it's one of the healthiest things for our mind and our body.
Yeah, everyone knows. I'm a big walker.
Me
so
too.
Grateful for it. It's so funny because I remember when I was in my early 20s, it was like, I didn't feel like walking was worth it.
Yeah, totally.
I was like, I'm only running.
Yeah.
I was like, we're only running. Walking is no point. I want to talk about the timing of our workouts.
Sure.
So what should women be aware of when they are timing their workouts?
Yeah. So we know that the more that you do, if you're going to do resistance training, that we have the best hormonal response around 3 p.m. Wow. That's just what the research shows. And it's probably for a few different factors. Our hormones work on a clock throughout the day. We have different hormone responses happening at different times of the day. It also, you've had food in your system, right? Which is also really incredibly important. But that's what we know from the research. Of course, that's not possible for all people. I have to work out in the morning just with my work day. There's just no way I'm going to be able to get it done after. So I do it in the morning. But the critical thing is that you are really slow rolling into that and that you are putting food into your stomach before you are starting that workout, especially if it is something like strength training or it is a higher intensity workout. We have to eat beforehand. I know a lot of people try to fight me on this or I can't do it. My digestive system can't handle food. Your digestive system is trainable. And so that's why you maybe have seen people that are running marathons and they're eating sandwiches while they're literally running because they've trained their digestive system to be able to digest more food. So you just have to start small and slowly work yourself up, but it's having the adequate nutrients like protein and carbohydrates and electrolytes before those workouts that are going to help to be able to mitigate that cortisol response, provide your body with the exact fuel source, the substrates that your muscles and your heart and everything needs to be able to fund that workout. Because if we don't have those energy substrates, so if you don't have carbohydrates or protein before you start a workout, then you're just asking more of your body. You're creating even more of a stress response because now your body has to go down through all these mechanisms to break down what it has in storage to be able to create the energy that you didn't provide it. Mm-hmm. So it's looking at where do you need to put that workout so that you can fuel properly to be able to create the best response from it. If someone needs to do a walk, for example, in the morning, I don't think a walk you need to have a full meal or anything prior to that. But it really just goes back to what's the intensity, what's the adaptation you're trying to create out of the workout.
For someone that wants to lose fat and lose weight, would you say no then? What would you... Yeah, because it's someone with disorder, coming from previous disordered eating and body stuff, I'm you pull on your storage and I'm I want to pull on my storage.
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
I mean, it's not how it works,
okay.
And
love that.
Yeah. If you're doing a strength training workout or you're doing a Barry's boot camp class, your body is not breaking down fat to be able to use that for energy. It's a very small percentage of what is actually being burned for those workouts. Your body has to use carbohydrate. It's what is the only thing that can be burned when there is no oxygen present in those higher intensity workouts. So it's not how the system works in terms of what your body's funding. And it's just going to create more of a stress response, which is then going to work against you because when we're stressed, when we have high cortisol, it blocks fat oxidation. So our body burns even less fat when we have high cortisol levels. When cortisol levels are elevated, as many people have probably seen in their life, if they've had high cortisol levels, you store more body fat. Generally, we see that as abdominal weight gain, right? Or people have difficulty with losing weight. In the short term, cortisol actually mobilizes our stores of energy. So if we have very acute cortisol responses, say the whole running from the tiger, situation people always talk about, that's the role of cortisol is to be able to mobilize glycogen, so carbohydrates we have in storage, to our bloodstream so that we can run from that tiger, so that we have the energy that we need to be able to do so. But when that happens time after time and you're having that cortisol response happening chronically, then that's when actual fat oxidation gets shunted and we actually start to see insulin resistance develop and people become metabolically inflexible and we start to have issues present with blood sugar levels and so on and so forth because their body is constantly in a state of cortisol, which means they're constantly releasing glucose into the bloodstream. And then that causes us to have issues. Once insulin is elevated, you're definitely not going to be burning fat for energy.
Wow. So, yeah, I think that might have been happening to me when I was working out so much because I'm like, I'm working out so much and I'm like, do not look like it. And I just looked inflamed and unhealthy. And yeah, it's like that vicious cycle that people get on with it. Let me know if this is true or not. So the cortisol is highest in the morning, correct? To get us up out of bed, get us moving. If we are someone that's then working out and doing a high intensity workout where our cortisol levels are also high, is that a bad thing?
Yeah.
Thank you. Say more.
Yeah, you're just adding more fuel to an already burning fire. And it's a recipe for
So you should be
burnout.
doing it like later in the day.
Yeah, if you
or
are going to do
evening.
something higher intensity, for sure.
Okay. What do you think about high intensity workouts?
They can have a purpose. We know from the research that they are really effective for improving, your performance, and they can be really helpful for certain mechanisms. But most people aren't doing actual high intensity training. Like Barry's boot camp, for example, like they might preach that it's high intensity interval training, but a lot of those workouts aren't actual HIIT. HIIT is actually the maximum intensity for 20 seconds with full recovery. Like you have to recover for 2 to 3 minutes. It's like what a sprinter does.
Yeah.
Look at a sprinter, they're ripped, right? That's high intensity. Most people aren't doing high intensity. They're doing moderate intensity, and moderate intensity, which is in the middle. I always tell people, I'm like, stay out of the middle. The middle is where cortisol dysregulation happens. Like all those workouts where they're like these interval that are creating this high intensity, moderate intensity response, those are creating a cortisol response, and they're not giving you the muscle adaptation that we need to be able to see that hormonal response that we want from that workout.
Wow. That's really powerful. So it would be workouts like Barry's or Soul Cycle, those ones that, and it is like Orange Theory, and it is true because and I've always thought that at Barry's, it's like you're going on the treadmill and then you're flying off to the floor and you're not actually getting the break that you need.
Yeah.
And you're moving through the weighted stuff so fast too.
Totally.
So basically the reason why that's not as effective is because it's affecting your cortisol level. What else are those type of workouts doing where you're in the middle?
Well, they're just also not creating the adaptation that you want from exercise. And
What's adaptation?
yeah, so adaptation would be like, okay, when you exercise, a lot of times people think about what you're doing during the workout, right? But it's all about really what happens after the workout, the recovery response that happens. So say, for example, you do a bicep curl. The adaptation that you're probably trying to achieve from the bicep curl is you want your bicep to grow bigger, you want your bicep to grow stronger. So that would be the adaptation. So if we're doing a strength training workout, the adaptation would be to grow stronger muscles, to build better muscles, to improve your insulin levels, right? Those are probably all the reasons that you would be doing strength training. So we always want to be working with the adaptation to create the environment that's going to allow that adaptation to happen as it should so that we can get all of the juice from that workout, right? But a lot of times people are like shutting off the adaptation because they're not eating properly, they're not creating the right environment for that adaptation to happen, or they're not doing a effective workout that's really targeted towards one adaptation. We can't confuse systems. And this is what happens a lot is that your aerobic system and the system that builds muscle, they're completely two different systems. So if you are doing a, circuit training class, you are training the aerobic system at the same time that you're trying to build muscle, but they're two competing systems. So if you do them at the same time, you're actually creating less of an adaptation from both. Whereas if we separate them and we're saying, okay, I'm going to do a strength training workout that's focused specifically on strength training to get the strength training adaptation. And then the next day, I'm going to do a workout that's focused on my cardiovascular function. Then we get the right adaptation. We get the maximum response from that workout because we're not confusing systems. We're telling the body, this is exactly what I want you to do. And this is exactly the adaptation that I want to happen out of this workout.
Wow. That's so fascinating. And it is interesting because it's like all the women I see that just lift and walk or whatever, I'm like, look amazing. And I've known that, but you just kind of have to keep hearing it and you have to keep hearing why. You said the environment for adaptation and that involves What is what is creating the environment for adaptation involve? Food, nutrition, supplementation, like timing, what does that involve?
Sleep.
Yeah.
What does the 24 hours look like after your workout? So many people think about what they're doing during that workout, but even with professional athletes, they don't train all day long.
Yeah.
They train for a couple of hours and then they recover. And that adaptation really happens in that recovery process. And that recovery process is through what you're eating, intentional supplementation you might be taking, sleep. Are you doing any other like extra recovery modalities, whether that's like ice bath, sauna, Nordic boots, all of these fancy things that are out there, but the basics really lie in like nutrition, hydration, sleep, right? Can we get those things right so that our body has what it needs to be able to recover?
Wow. Okay. So nutrition with working out. What should we be having before workout? What should we be having after workout? Like, what is that like?
Yeah. So for someone that's not fat fueled, so like for someone that's not on a ketogenic diet, which is most people, right? Unless there's like a medical type situation, then we really want to be focusing on primarily carbohydrates and protein before those workouts. 2 reasons is that carbohydrates are the energy source that your body is going to be using during the workout you're doing. As I mentioned, fat, it's much harder for your body to burn for energy during exercise. It's also not something that's very easy digested, so it takes a really long time for your body to actually use it for energy. So we really want to be thinking about what do we need to give our body for the energy source that it's actually using during this workout, and then what's the easiest thing to get to our muscles that's not going to slow down the process of our muscles getting the oxygen and energy that they need during this workout. So that's where the carbohydrate piece comes in. Protein is going to really help because it's going to help counterbalance the carbohydrate. We want to prevent ever having carbohydrates by themselves. That's how we get into like a bad blood sugar situation. So the protein functions to be able to help with that, but it also helps to prevent creating a catabolic environment. You're going to create a little bit of a catabolic environment.
What's a catabolic environment?
Yeah, so that would be when you are like lifting weights, right? You are tearing muscle fibers. That's why you get sore, and that's how the muscle adapts and it becomes stronger and bigger and more fit, right? So you're naturally creating a little bit of a catabolic environment. But if we haven't eaten any protein prior to that workout, there's a higher propensity for you to get into more of a catabolic environment because those amino acids that are in that protein are what provide the building blocks for that muscle. So if we can have a little bit of protein before the workout, it's just helping to be able to kind of create a little bit of an offset so that we can try to create the most anabolic environment, which is an environment that helps support muscle growth and muscle adaptation. And then,
so catabolic is breaking it down. Anabolic is growth.
Building. Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Exactly.
Got it.
So then on the flip side, it's the same thing is that we want to make sure that with, post-workout, depending on like what your schedule looks like and things, you can definitely have some vegetables and some fats and things of that sort because you're probably going to have that as like a meal. But we want to make sure that that meal definitely has carbohydrates and protein. Protein is going to help with, again, creating that growth environment, that anabolic environment, helping the muscle recover. The carbohydrate is also going to help with that recovery process. You also are the most insulin sensitive after a workout. So when we're thinking about, okay, like we know that women in their reproductive years, they need carbohydrate to be able to fund the menstrual cycle. And we can talk about that deeper maybe a later time. But if we are trying to maximize our blood sugar, which we know is also important, then the best way to eat the carbohydrates would be after a workout because that's when you have the most insulin sensitivity, which basically means that your muscles are like a sponge to absorbing that carbohydrate instead of storing it. And that's what we want to prevent is that storage from happening. So that's really important. And then getting enough electrolytes too, because those also help to be able to then blunt that cortisol response that happens during that workout.
I am always wanting to swap out anything toxic in my house. And what I did a couple years ago was swap out all of my cookware, anything with like a Teflon covering, anything like that, with cookware from Our Place. And I am so happy I did. I continue to get pieces from Our Place that I'm excited to tell you about. But yeah, a lot of brands use Teflon, which is a forever chemical, and it is really, really toxic. Most brands are still using PFAS, which, we have to be very aware of. This could be disrupting our hormones. It's just a whole mess. So swapping out toxic kitchenware and appliances for non-toxic, healthy, sustainable choices is the move. And Our Place is where I am going. I wanted to share some of the pieces that I got recently, and I'm obsessed. Okay. So I have the large always pan. I actually have a couple of them because I find that when I'm really cooking up, I need a few of the, like at least two of these on the stovetop at once, one for the veggies, one for the meats. I recently got, get this, the cast iron trio. So I was dying for some cast iron. I was kind of like noodling on, okay, when should I get it? Where should I get it from? And they came out with cast iron recently, and it's premium. It is just so freaking good. I got like a big pot, so I can do my sourdough in there, y'all. I can do a big stew. I also got the always pan in cast iron, which I'm doing so much in, and it comes with a grill press. So like if I make a grilled cheese for my hubby, I just put the grill press on, and it is a perfect sear. I'm just so happy. They also came out with some appliances. They have the Wonder Oven, which is a non-toxic air fryer. Y'all, I used to have an air fryer. Very, very toxic. You could taste it in the food. This is non-toxic, and I highly recommend. They also have the Perfect Power Pot. So this is a convenient 5-in-1 appliance that packs a punch for its size. It basically works anywhere. It can saute and steam and sear and fry and boil anything your heart desires. It's pretty freaking cool. Great for a college kid. Really great for a college kid. Anyway, I'm obsessed with this brand. I was so excited to find out we were going to partner with them. So you can go to FromOurPlace.com and enter our code almost30 at checkout to receive 10% off site-wide. That's FromOurPlace.com. The code is almost30. Our Place offers a 100-day trial with free shippings and returns.
Yeah, I loved that point about the electrolytes because I didn't think about that, blunting the cortisol level response, because I'll always I have Element all the time, but I'll usually have it around my workouts and then key on aminos. But I really love that point because I think that's something that's easy for women to do is have the electrolytes around it. But I'm having a hard time understanding. So it's like the muscles, when they are being repaired, it's helpful to have carbohydrates after. Why is it that they are not being stored, but they're being more easily utilized, or they're in a place in the body where they're going to be utilized and they're not being stored? Like, what is the function of them being in a space where they're not being stored?
They are being stored. They're just being stored by the muscle, which is where we want those carbohydrates to
instead
go.
of where?
Instead of being
fat cells?
Fat cells, the liver, in the bloodstream for blood sugar dysregulation to happen. Yeah. So the muscles are like a sponge, and they're like, I'm going to take in all of those carbohydrates that you just consumed, rather than taking in, let's say, like 40%, and then the rest of them going to wherever else.
Wow. Okay. Got it. So after the workout, the muscles are like in a way where they're like a sponge, and they will absorb the carbohydrates for the next workout or for the next thing.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's really helpful. So what would be some examples of foods that people can have before and after their workouts?
Yeah, they can look really similar just depending on timing. Generally, the closer you get to the workout, the lighter it should get. So if you're having a snack, say like 30 minutes before a workout, it could be something as simple as like a piece of fruit with some like turkey slices. Or it could be a small bowl of oatmeal that you add like some protein powder into. You could do like some collagen peptides and add like a citrus fruit to it. That provides a little bit of like additional benefit because it helps support our soft tissues, especially if someone's like rehabilitating or having any like joint pain, ligament pain, things of that sort.
Wow.
So yeah, so like those could be some very light things. It could also be like a meal that you're having, an hour, 2 hours before that's like, maybe you're doing like a rice bowl that has like chicken in it, something like that, or eggs that have potatoes with it. And then after the workout, it could look similar to that. It could be an omelet that you're having potatoes and fruit with. I always want to make sure that people are having at least a starch source after a workout, not just a fruit source. That's really important because the glucose, which is what is in vegetables and your starchy foods like potatoes and legumes and grains and things of that sort, those primarily are what refuel our muscle glycogen. Fruit is what replenishes our liver glycogen. And during a workout, we're mostly using muscle glycogen. We're not really burning a lot from our liver glycogen. So if you do a little bit of fruit after the workout, that's fine, but just make sure that it's not fruit only, that it does have some some vegetables, some starches, so that you're getting in that glucose source for the muscle.
Wow. Okay. So there's liver glycogen and what kind of a glycogen?
Muscle glycogen.
Muscle glycogen.
Yeah.
Okay. So is it that whenever you have fruit, it's almost always used for liver glycogen?
Yeah,
Okay.
it goes primarily to the liver.
And so this is fascinating. So what is the benefit of having liver glycogen? Because I feel like culturally, since keto and since carnivore and since all these things, people kind of are like not eating fruit as much.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's just my world. But what would you say to that, the importance of having fruit for that reason?
Well, glycogen is really important for helping to make sure that our blood sugar levels can stay stable. So like, for example, when you're sleeping over the night, you're not burning muscle glycogen, like your muscles are not doing anything, right? You're burning through liver glycogen. So if you don't have any liver glycogen, then your blood sugar, you would go hypoglycemic unless you were making ketones, which then would be like the secondary fuel source. So that's like where with someone's on a ketogenic diet, they have like no insulin production. They're in a hypoglycemic state, and then that's when their body makes ketones. So they're actually burning ketones. But unless you are in a ketogenic state, then you're not going to be making very many ketones, and you're just going to go into a hypoglycemic state, a low blood sugar state. And when that happens, a cortisol response happens. Because remember that the cortisol is what helps to be able to mobilize that sugar back into our bloodstream to run from the tiger. So this is the main cause of so many people's sleep difficulties, waking up in the middle of the night, 2 to 4 a.m. Why is that happening? Because your blood sugar is dropping, because your liver glycogen is running low, because you're not eating enough throughout the day, or you did a lot in your workout, whatever it might be. And now you've got a cortisol response happening. And now you've got cortisol issues going on, and you can't sleep at night, so you're not getting the right recovery environment to help you recover from that workout.
Let's talk about the balance between like what people not eating enough and then also like the rise in obesity.
Yeah.
What do you think is that? Obviously, I'm simplifying two very, very nuanced and complex topics and ideas into something that we can talk about briefly. But I do feel like that a lot of people are not eating enough, but then also we have the obesity problem. What do you think about that?
I think they're two completely different situations that are happening. And I know for me, that was one of the issues that got me into my hormone problems, was that like in school, I was learning about diabetes and I was learning about how to treat obesity with nutrition. So I applied all those same principles to myself. But I also was working out 3 hours a day because I was a college athlete. And that then created a hormonal dysregulation because my body didn't have enough energy, right? And so we really have to look at is who is the individual and what does their lifestyle look like? A lot of women that we work with, they are on the spectrum where they're in the camp where they're over-exercising, they're not eating enough, right? But on what you asked about with obesity, yes, a lot of people struggle with obesity from a really young age. And we know that things like childhood trauma play a really big role in this, the gut microbiome at a young age. So there's a lot that has to be unraveled there that oftentimes is not even something that's just started in the adult years. It goes back so many years beyond that are so much deeper ingrained. But our inability to lose weight is always a survival response by the body. It's always our body protecting us from famine, protecting us from the next stressor. And so we have to ask the question as to why is the body in this stress response where we're having this weight loss resistance happen? Because there are a lot of people that are overweight, that are struggling with obesity, that are really trying. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize is that, yes, of course, there are people that are over consuming food, they're under exercising, they're not getting in the right nutrition. But there's also a great chunk of people who really have this metabolic dysfunction that started at a very young age, who are trying really hard, but they have deeply ingrained traumas and their body is protecting them so much. And it just goes so much deeper than just the food and exercise that they're doing every day.
Yeah, I think for the obesity thing, I also think about inflammation levels. I also think about toxicity, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but when I think about, I don't just think about like fat on the body. I think about many other things that are in the cells or how do you see if someone is obese, what is the percentage of it, if we could say at a range that is fat or that is inflammation or that is like many other factors that are also contributing to someone being in a larger body or someone having, being in a larger body.
Yeah. Well, we definitely know that inflammation is going to impact weight loss, and that when there is excess fat, that does create an inflammatory environment. So they are very much they're very much intertwined with one another, and it is a little bit of what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? That's driving that inflammation. So we always want to work at is how do we definitely improve inflammation levels? Because if we can improve things like inflammation levels, if we can improve blood sugar control, those create the right environment for the body to be able to release that weight. But to your point, yes, there's so much issues with toxicity of endocrine disrupting chemicals. I really believe that that's one of the reasons we are in the position that we're in is our food system. There's herbicides, glyphosate, all these things in our food system, artificial food colorings, you name it, that people have been exposed to for many years, that there was not enough longitudinal research to see how these were going to actually affect humans in the long run. And the people have been eating them since they were 5 years old at this point, now they're 40. And then all of the chemicals that are in our beauty products, just your couch, your water bottle, all of these factors that we know also impact obesity. The issue is that there really has to be a streamlined approach to someone losing weight that's in that position, because not only, resolving some of like the internal things like trauma and such that we talked about, but also if you just try to start losing weight, if you just go into a caloric deficit right off the bat, you are going to get sicker, because now you're releasing all this fat, and in your fat is where you store all those toxins, right? So we have to be clearing the body of these toxins first. We have to lower the insulin resistance first, because if you try to go into a caloric deficit before insulin has been supported and we've started to reverse this insulin resistance, it's going to work against you. You're going to have an upregulation in hunger because of the hormonal changes that happen. You're going to have more food cravings. You're just not going to be successful as if we support your insulin levels and clear the body of all of these endocrine disruptors first.
Okay, help me understand. So that was something that I've learned about, is basically how the fat cells store toxins.
Yeah.
So if someone was obese and they went into a caloric deficit, then their body starts to release from the fat cells fat, and then also toxins come within that because it's stored within. So then what is happening after that moment? Besides having toxins in the body, so basically the toxins are being released, and then the body is having to what?
Clear all those toxins. So it's a lot of stress on the liver. It's a lot, because all that has to go through the liver. It's got to come out somewhere. And so it's like, think of all of these like little things just zooming around in the body, right?
Course,
all
yes.
of this that's getting broken down. And there's been research that's shown that it actually can like attack the thyroid gland.
Yeah,
and then that can actually cause more issues with weight loss, because now you've got slowed thyroid hormones. If you slow your thyroid hormones, your metabolism slows. So there's all this work for the body to do to start clearing all of those toxins.
I also, it's funny, I'm working, one of my women that I work with, she's been working with her fertility, and so she's done a lot of changes to her environment and household and all the things to reduce toxins and all of that. And it's funny too, what also comes up emotionally, psychologically, like it's just so wild, because if you think about our body as a system, we have these hormones that are creating our moods, and all of these things, our moods are kind of creating our personality. Like when we have all the toxins being released in our body and then being processed, like I can imagine that the mind or like the body is sort of having this conversation and signals about these toxins or about these things. Kind of a meta thought, but it's like, that would surely be something that would impact your mood or your energy or even who you are.
Oh, absolutely. And the same thing happens in people that don't have a lot of fat cells. When we're working with someone, if we're trying to clear like overgrowth in the gut, their microbiome has a lot of like candida or bacterial overgrowth. If they just start on herbs to start killing all of this bacteria and things, but they're not eliminating and their drainage pathways in their body aren't working properly, they're going to get worse. You're going to have fever. You're going to feel chills. You're going to feel tired. You're going to feel, sometimes people will have like skin issues present, whatever it might be, because you've got all these inflammatory compounds that are being broken down with nowhere to go.
Wow. Yeah, I'm just like blown away at that, because I could just see that being something that really is impacting. Can you explain in that? So when I'm obsessed with this. So when the toxins are being released, because I think why I'm obsessed with it is because it's like, it's not just fat in the fat cells. And I think people are reductionistic and thinking that it just is, and there's so much things that are being held there. What was the relationship between insulin and that? You're mentioning insulin supported things.
Yeah. Well, if insulin is elevated, so insulin is a hormone that is released when we consume carbohydrate primarily, and its main job is to transport those carbohydrates into carbohydrate-dependent cells in the body. So generally, whenever there is insulin resistance, it means that there is high levels of the hormone insulin. Optimal range for the hormone insulin is somewhere around 3 to 6. A lot of people are sitting around like 15, 20. That's just what we're seeing. Yeah, sometimes even higher than that. I've seen definitely way higher than that before.
Whoa.
Yeah, so that is an insulin-resistant problem that's happening. But insulin is what makes fat cells grow. So if a lot of people, they just go into a caloric deficit, but they're still consuming a lot of carbohydrate, or they're eating a lot of carbohydrates on their own. They're not supporting their muscle mass. They're not creating an environment to improve their insulin sensitivity so that insulin stays high, but calories drop. So they start to lose weight, but those fats, the weight isn't coming from the fat cells, right? Because the fat cells are going to keep growing as insulin is elevated.
Wow.
So if we want to target the fat cells, which is where we want to get that weight from, we don't want the weight coming from your, muscle or wherever else. We want it coming from primarily inside of that visceral fat. If we want to target that, we have to drop insulin, because if insulin is low, those fat cells can't keep growing.
Wow. What do you think we're getting wrong about the conversation around blood sugar and glucose right now?
Well, I think that there's so many nuance to take within it, right? As it relates to the women in their reproductive years, so women that are menstruating, generally ages 15 to 40 something, right? A lot of times they're just trying to lower blood sugar by either not eating any carbohydrate or eating a very, very low amount. And what we know is that there is a neuropeptide from our brain called kisspeptin. And this neuropeptide is heavily impacted by carbohydrate restriction. And kisspeptin is what helps our granulosa cells, so our cells in our ovaries, to be able to make estradiol and progesterone. So if we drop carbohydrate too low, you're going to see issues present with your menstrual cycle. You're either not going to have a period, we're not going to get the right stimulation response, so that could lead to things like infertility because you might be cycling, but maybe you're not ovulating and getting an adequate progesterone response, which happens with a lot of women. So that's one piece of it. And then on the other side, there's a lot of women that we see that are in an older population that are maybe postmenopausal, perimenopausal, that have conditions like Hashimoto's. And with Hashimoto's, the immune system is attacking and destroying thyroid hormones. And those thyroid hormones help to be able to support blood sugar metabolism. And so it's not just as simple as just reduce carbohydrate, just remove carbohydrate. We have to be thinking about, are the cells sensitized to that carbohydrate? There's so much more to the situation. Is there low enough inflammation levels? Are the cells going to actually take that glucose, that carbohydrate that you just eaten, and actually pull it into the muscle and the liver in these places that carbohydrate needs to go? If you just lower carbohydrate, you actually can make the problem worse if you don't think about the cells, because now your body actually just becomes less able to then burn that carbohydrate for energy.
So why is it that, and this is just genuine curiosity, why is it that for most people, when they reduce carbohydrates, it helps their health or weight?
Yeah, it will. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think just because it's because we're having so much that it just benefits, or what do you think?
Well, so many people are dealing with insulin resistance. I mean, I would say like 80% of people, I think that's even what the research has shown.
Of the population?
Yeah, of the population are insulin resistant. So a lot of people need blood sugar improvements because insulin's going to create an inflammatory response. We know insulin is correlated with everything from diabetes to Alzheimer's, you name it, PCOS, so on and so forth. So for a lot of people, they need to improve their blood sugar control. But that only is going to get you so far, right? Mm-hmm. So we have to be thinking about, what's the long-term plan here? What are we doing to set ourselves up for success so that we're not just improving blood sugar control, but we're also helping our body to become more metabolically flexible, helping create an environment to where we're more successful when we don't eat perfectly? And how are we then getting that glucose into those cells so that we can continue to see improvements happen with our metabolic health long term?
Tell me about refeed days.
Yeah. So refeed days are a concept that really comes from more of like the bodybuilding world.
I remember.
Yeah. So refeeding is...
I don't know why I was watching girl bodybuilders in like 2015.
I was as well.
What,
so it
Buff
probably
Bunny?
was, I did love her.
Love her.
Still love her.
Love her.
Yeah.
I literally don't know why.
I feel like it was the trend. Like
I think it was
the
my
times.
eating disorder manifestation, just like watching someone else. Like it was just like, she's eating like rice cakes or like, you know what I mean?
It was like the time of like the Quest bar. Like that's
my
like
God,
when
what do
I
you
feel like
mean?
Quest bar came onto the scene,
100%,
you know?
yes.
So yeah, and like all the artificial sweeteners and the like, I saw a thing the other day on Instagram and it was like 30-year-old girl starter pack. And it was like the polar like pink watch with like the heart rate strap. It was like a Quest bar. And I was like, yeah.
I used to eat, that was like my binge. I would eat like 6 Quest bars a day. I don't know how my digestion survived, to be honest.
It's
like
a lot of fiber.
Especially when they turned it over to corn, to soluble corn. Because it used to be almonds or something. And then they turned it to corn to save money. This is the cringiest thing I've ever said. I've never done this ever else in my life. I commented on a post that Quest had on Facebook and was like, why did you switch to corn?
Oh my God. It's a good question.
Literally so embarrassing. Like, get a life. Okay. My question was what?
The refeeding.
Okay, thank you.
So I want to clarify first that there is something called refeeding syndrome, and that's what happens when someone has like anorexia nervosa or an eating disorder, and they are in a really big caloric deficit, and then they start eating too much food too quickly. It creates this shift in pH in the body, and that creates something called refeeding syndrome. Someone can die from it.
Wouldn't it be like
very
a binge?
dangerous.
It's like a binge or no?
It could be, but generally it's like for a more long-term period of time.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So like if someone has a very active eating disorder, there has to be a certain like stepwise fashion that's taken to like get their energy needs back up.
Got it.
So that's refeeding syndrome. A refeed is a acute response, acute stimulus that is created to be able to create a hormonal change in the body. So one of the things that we know is that when someone is losing weight and or in a caloric deficit, they're eating less calories, less energy than they are consuming, there is a hormone called leptin that is an energy sensing hormone that drops. And there's something that's called leptin resistance that a lot of people deal with. A lot of people with obesity actually deal with leptin resistance, where their body literally thinks that they're starving, even though they're not, because they have been in a caloric deficit, because fat cells have decreased, whatever it might be that's creating this environment. We know that even just a caloric deficit of 4 days creates a drop in leptin levels. And when leptin is low, it's going to be really hard for you to continue on with whatever you're trying to do, because you're going to feel hungry 24/7. You're going to feel like you're literally malnourished. You're starving, even though you're not. You are going to see an uptick in cortisol levels, and you're also generally going to see an impact in thyroid hormones. So it's this cascade that happens where leptin levels drop, free thyroid hormone levels drop, and then you are just in this high stress, this high cortisol response. So cortisol levels increase. And so what we want to do is, this doesn't need to be done for everyone, but for some individuals, is do a refeed or a stimulus day is what I call it, where we're essentially helping to support getting those leptin levels back up, helping upregulate thyroid hormones, downregulate cortisol levels, so that we can then create this adaptation that prevents someone from getting into this chronic like leptin resistant type position. And we do that mainly through intentional structured carbohydrate and electrolytes that create this response, or supplementation we can use as well, like omega-3 fatty acids are really helpful for that as well.
So the difference between a cheat day and a refeed day would be the intentional distribution of carbohydrates, electrolytes, and then maybe omega-3s instead of just like free-for-all eating whatever you want.
Well, the problem with like cheat days is that, there's no intentionality to it. So you're not going to get like the adaptation again, the hormonal response that we're looking for. But then also the perfect environment for fat cells to grow is too much carbohydrate and too much fat. That's why like there's always going to be a war out against what's better, a low carb diet or a low fat diet, right? And that's because carbohydrates and fat are both energy storing nutrients. So if you eat too much carbohydrates and fat at the same time, it's kind of like what we talked about with exercise. They're competing systems. And so if you eat in excess of both of them together, it's like the perfect situation for your body to say, oh, I'm going to store all that as energy. And then you just had a cheat day and now you just backtracked.
Is there a benefit to having a variety in your calories? So like if you had 7 days in the week, is there a benefit to having one day having 3,000, the next day having 2,000, the next day having 2,500, the next day having 1,500? Like, would you say that it's better for people to be stable with their calorie intake, or it's better for them to be moving around?
Yeah. So I'm not a big like calorie counting person, but I would just say that like across the board, if we're just talking about like energy intake, like how much you are consuming, consistency is going to be the most important, especially for women in their reproductive years, because it's going to send that signal to the body. I am safe. This is exactly what you can expect every day. There's no variability in what's happening. We know that like around your menstrual cycle, your resting metabolic rate increases by about like 5%. So you might warrant the need for like an extra 100 calories or so per day, but it's not an extreme amount. However, what I will say is that the one thing that is really important is that we are trying to create a very metabolically flexible environment. And what I mean by that is that we have situations where we are trying to really work on improving our body's ability to burn carbohydrates for energy, and situations where we're trying to burn our body's ability to burn fat for energy. Because we never want to get into a position where we are never eating fat or never eating carbohydrates, because then when you do eat them again, your body doesn't have the substrates available to be able to burn those. It doesn't know what to do. We know that even just 5 days of not eating carbohydrates or not eating fat literally shuts off the amount of substrates that are there. So it's like if you were consuming this energy and your body's like, I have no idea what to do with that anymore because you haven't been consuming that.
Wow. So for people, and this is maybe, correct me if I'm wrong. So I've thought about, maybe this is my programming, but around carbohydrates, I feel like eating a balanced diet, I get enough carbohydrates. But do you think that women need to focus solely on getting carbohydrates?
No, I mean, fat is incredibly important too, because fat's how we make cholesterol and that's where all our hormones are made from. So protein's really important too. I mean, they're all so important. Yeah. To me, it's really about, like I said, the intentionality of the timing of them. So can we be intentional about pushing more carbohydrates around to exercise to create the best environment to get the most out of exercise, and also because that's where we're going to get the best insulin response. And then the other part of the day, can we create an environment where we still have some carbohydrates? We don't want it to be no carb because we need some to be able to keep our blood glucose levels stable, but that those meals are more maybe fat heavy, they're more fiber heavy, to really create that more metabolically flexible environment.
Let's talk about electrolytes and minerals.
Yeah.
What should we know about them?
Well, minerals are part of the electrolyte family. So generally with electrolytes, we think of things like sodium, potassium, and chloride. That's generally what you're going to find in any of like your electrolyte supplements. But we have other minerals outside of that. We have things like selenium and magnesium and chromium that people might have heard of as well. And they're all incredibly important, especially for hormones. These minerals are really important for, like I mentioned earlier, helping sensitize your thyroid cells, for example, for thyroid hormones. So with the thyroid, it can get really complex because for a lot of people, they're dealing with thyroid issues and they think that if I just add more thyroid hormones to the environment, then all my symptoms will disappear. So that's why they go on thyroid hormone replacement. But then 90% of people don't get better. Maybe some of their symptoms improve, but not all of them. And that's because the cells haven't been sensitized to those thyroid hormones. There's something that's called cellular hypothyroidism, which essentially means you've got more thyroid hormones, but those thyroid hormones aren't actually getting into the cells to do what we need them to do. So these minerals help to be able to essentially push those hormones into the cells, to activate hormones, to convert hormones, to make them more like usable for us so that we're not just making hormones, but those hormones are binding to receptors. They're doing their job that we want them to do in all of these different locations of the body.
What do you think about like electrolyte supplements, packets? Like, do you think we need to be having that much sodium? What are your thoughts?
Most people do. Sodium helps to be able to lower cortisol. And as I mentioned earlier, when your cortisol levels are high, you burn through more sodium. So a lot of people are in a high cortisol position. A lot of people I work with too, they're not eating like very processed foods. A lot of them are coming from a more whole foods diet. So they're not getting a lot of sodium through food. And the sodium you would get through like processed food isn't the sodium we're looking for. That's like table salt, right? We're looking for an unrefined salt that would have some trace minerals in it as well. So it could be like a Celtic salt, or it could be like Redmond's. It's one of my favorites. It's unrefined salt. So most people do need more sodium. Most people definitely need more potassium, I will say. Our potassium need is like 3,500 milligrams per day. It's really high. And like one of the highest foods out there is avocado, which only has 400 milligrams. So if you think about how many avocados you would have to eat per day to get enough potassium,
Oh my God.
it's substantial.
I'm over avocados too, to be honest.
We had them 5 years ago.
We had them phased, but we're done. I'm like, it doesn't even taste like anything.
I know. I feel like I never eat them whenever I buy them anymore.
Never. I'm like, no. Okay, so we need potassium. What are some other essential nutrients that women need?
Omega-3s are really important. Omega-3s function almost more like a hormone than they do anything else. They help lower prostaglandins, which are those inflammatory compounds that cause all the PMS symptoms. So important for your skin, so important for the brain, for fertility. So omega-3 fatty acids, they're also an essential nutrient, which means there's some nutrients that our body can manufacture for us if we don't do a good enough job of consuming them. And then there's others that our body cannot manufacture. And those are the ones we really want to pay more attention to, especially through supplementation. Omega-3 fatty acids are one. If we don't consume them, you literally just become deficient. Like your body doesn't have the substrates to be able to make them. So most people, even people that are eating fish, a couple times per week, I see still have really low levels. So those are definitely a big one. Vitamin A, the active form of vitamin A, I see a lot of people not getting enough of that as well. The active form would be retinol, which probably most people are familiar with for like skincare products.
Could you use that and it counts?
Yeah. So vitamin A is what you would find. Well, not on your skin. I mean, you probably absorb a little bit. I don't know if it would be like, if it would influence your vitamin A levels, like as, I'm sure it would if you used enough of it. But generally the best source would be like beef liver, or you can get something like grass-fed dairy. But you don't, like the beta carotene is what most people are consuming for vitamin A, which is what you get in like sweet potatoes and bell peppers. Yeah, carrots, all those orange vegetables. But there's a very low conversion rate over to retinol, which is the active form. And vitamin A is incredibly important for your hormones, like for all of your sex hormones. It's really important for your skin too. That's why it's in a lot of skincare products. So a lot of people aren't getting enough of it.
I think Paleo Valley, we work with them. I think they have beef liver.
Yeah, they do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. You can do capsules, or you could do like, whole beef liver. Yeah.
Yeah, it might be good to do capsules. I have never thought about vitamin A. Anything else? Omegas, vitamin A.
Omegas, vitamin A. I mean, all of your minerals, iron.
You do like mineral supplements, like drops, or how do you get more minerals?
I mean, eating them first would be the first place to start. Just making sure you're getting enough diversity of plants. So like magnesium, you get a lot of in like dark leafy greens and seeds. You get a lot of potassium in like avocados and leafy greens as well. So just eating a diversity of plants is one place to start. Eating good quality like proteins too, like especially protein that has like the bone in it, or like beef liver and things that have more of like the fats in them that are good quality are going to provide you more of those minerals as well. But yeah, you can definitely lean on supplementation. There's a lot of like mineral complexes that are out there that can be great options. If you have mineral testing and you know your mineral results, then you can just dose things based off of like your individual needs. So like what I'll sometimes do for clients if we have testing results is we'll just create like a little like mocktail. And it's like, okay, 4 drops of boron, like 2 drops of selenium, 1 drop of iodine, like whatever it is that they need. And then it's like they just do that like once per day so that they're getting kind of all of their baseline needs in that.
Smart. Remember I had like really high copper levels.
Yeah. Did you have a copper IUD?
I did.
Yeah, that's probably why.
I think I was like working it out.
Yeah. So copper and zinc, they work in like opposition of each other.
So having a higher zinc would help.
Yeah. So if you like take zinc supplementation, anyone that has a copper IUD really should be on zinc, because you're going to deplete your zinc levels because it's like constant copper exposure. But then vice versa as well. Like a lot of people during COVID I was seeing were like constantly on zinc, and then their copper levels dropped.
Wow. That's the whole thing. The body's so crazy. It's just this, we're trying to do one thing and then it's like whack-a-mole.
I know, it really is whack-a-mole.
It is. You're like, then we did this and then this impacted this and then it did this. Okay, let's talk about the cycles.
Okay.
Cycle syncing. What do we think?
It's not for everyone, I'll say.
Yes. It's not for people with jobs.
Yeah.
What do you find and what are you hearing about the conversation around cycle syncing? Like, what do you like about it and what are you like,
I like that it makes people more intentional about what is happening in their body and that they're more aware of hormonal changes. I think that that's a great education point, and it's something that, I like to talk with clients about is, okay, let's track your cycle. Let's understand where we are. Do we have ovulation happening in a consistent time frame? Are you getting enough of a progesterone response? Like all of those things create a healthy cycle, create a healthy environment to have the best hormonal response, fertility, whatever it might be that your goals are. However, a lot of the cycle syncing information out there where it's like, okay, do this in the follicular phase, do this in the luteal phase, do this when you're menstruating. It's for people that have the optimal hormone levels during their cycle.
Yeah.
But most women don't have optimal hormone levels during their cycle. And so their needs actually may look complete opposite of what the cycle syncing charts might say. So like a lot of the cycle syncing charts will say, push yourself during the ovulation phase. But do you know how many women are not ovulating and are not making adequate progesterone? Like it is 90% of women that I see in my office. And so if they take that advice, it's only going to create more problems because it's going to decrease the LH surge. Luteinizing hormone, or LH, is how we then make progesterone.
Wow. I just find it's like for people that are anal about other things and just like use it to apply this like rigidity to their life, and it's like seen as something that would bring more freedom and flexibility to your life, but actually makes your life more rigid.
Totally.
And I'm about having no rigidity in any part of my life.
Yeah.
Workouts, nutrition, relationships, whatever. And so I'm just like, to be honest, I'm like triggered by it. I'm like, what are we doing where it's like so, I don't know. Why does it trigger me? I think there's a part of me that feels like it's an excuse for things and is like, applies this like label to things. Then I don't know. I'm like, just live your life.
No, I hear you. And I also see too that with people, they might like use it as a reason to not exercise. And although, like I said earlier, a lot of people are over exercising and we don't need to like go to the extreme and push ourselves. But we know movement in general, it doesn't need to be exercise, but movement is so incredible for like our mental well-being.
Yeah.
And so if we're just, okay, the cycle syncing chart says I'm menstruating, so I'm just going to like sleep all day, never get outside, never get sun, not go on my walks. How is that going to impact not even just your physical health, but your mental well-being?
Yeah, I think, yes, I totally agree. I think for me, I have some unpacking as it relates to that. Like, what about it triggers me? I think there's a part of me that like never gives myself a break. And so when people are like having excuses to give themselves a break, I'm like, why do you think you could do that? And then also I think it's like you're applying, like, I think a lot of women are doing it to be more in their feminine, as like the perception of like this will help be in more of my feminine energy. But I think it's like when we're applying a masculine structure of like this is what it looks like for everyone to what we're perceiving to be feminine, it's like not helping. Because for me, the feminine would be in touch with your body on a constant basis, like what it needs and how you're going to support it. And it doesn't mean you're just applying this like baseline structure that you read about one time online to your life all the time.
Yeah.
What do you think about when women are like, I think I know a lot of women that are like changing completely around parts of their cycle time. They're exhausted, they're moody, they're tired, they can't work, they can't do these things. Like, there's a part of me that's like, there should be space and opportunity for people to be human and for people to have moments and spaces in time where they don't feel their best, where they can rest, where they're not performing. You know what I mean? I don't want to be like, we're putting us in this like capitalistic structure of always feeling like we have to produce. But then on the other hand, what is the point where it's unhealthy or where it's like people should probably look at the disruption that their cycle is bringing their life?
Yeah. Well, a lot of times when people have these extreme fluctuations, it's because there's hormone imbalances. Really, if your hormones are in a healthy range, you should not even really feel that your period's coming. Like it should just feel like you're going about your day to day. You shouldn't feel these emotional mood swings and these huge changes to like bloating and digestive changes. It's when those hormones are out of balance that those extreme situations occur. And that's why people will say like, I'm being hormonal, which I hate that saying, but people say things like that because I just think that it's blaming things on your hormones rather than asking the bigger question of what does my body need in this situation? Because those hormonal situations are just a message from our body saying, hey, listen to me.
I know, that's my whole thing with everything. I'm like, and what I've realized in just my journey with the work that I do, it's like everything that our body is doing is because it feels like it's doing something that's beneficial to us, because it feels like it's supporting us. It's trying to find equilibrium. It's trying to find balance. Like it's not just doing things to ruin our lives or like it's always seeking to help. Always.
It's always on our side.
Yes.
I mean, our body, it does so much for us.
I know.
And I know I took my body for granted for so many years of like what it does internally. But when you just think about all the things that are happening right now, just as we're having this conversation inside of our body, it's truly incredible that we have to respect it. We have to take care of it.
No, I'm so great. I'm so grateful for my health. Like
Yeah.
I just could not be more grateful. I think that getting older really helps. So why then, okay, because I know we talked about cycle syncing and stuff like that, but why is hormone balance not cycle syncing? Or what's the relationship between cycle syncing? I think people perceive cycle syncing to be about balancing your hormones. Is that true that does that?
No, because cycle syncing is based off the premise that you already have balanced hormones.
Got it.
Yeah. So if you don't have balanced hormones, then we have to figure out where is the imbalance happening. And everyone's imbalance is at different points. Some people aren't making enough estrogen in the follicular phase. Some people aren't ovulating. Some people aren't making enough progesterone. It's so multifaceted that there's no one like cookie cutter way for us to say, this is what all women with hormone imbalances should do to create a hormone balanced environment.
What about intermittent fasting? I feel like that was even fasting. I feel like that was a huge moment where people were talking about fasting, people were intermittent fasting. Like, what do you feel about that? Because I've heard that negatively impacts women's hormones.
Yeah, it definitely creates more of that stress response that tells the brain this isn't a safe place to reproduce, right? We want to try to prevent those situations from happening. It can create a hypoglycemic situation, which again can create that whole cortisol response that we're talking about. So for most people that are in their reproductive years, I would say it's not the way to go because we want to be sending as many signals to our body, like this is a safe place to reproduce, even if you're not trying to reproduce, because it's going to create the environment for optimal hormones. And if we have optimal hormones, everything in our body happens so much easier, right? Our mental well-being improves, our physical well-being, so on and so forth. So we want to try to create that environment that's going to best set us up for a reproductive environment. We also know that intermittent fasting can downregulate thyroid hormones, and thyroid hormones are really important for not just also reproduction, but also our mood, our energy, metabolism, so many different facets. You know, I think that there is a population that can benefit. I think that some people that are in the older population or maybe have certain medical conditions where it's almost like the menstrual cycle is kind of the last priority right now because there's bigger fish to fry, right? That's where we might using intermittent fasting or fasting in general as a clinical tool. Cancer, for example, fasting is incredibly powerful because it creates autophagy, which helps with cell turnover so that we're not creating this constant cell growth. So there's definitely populations where this is important. And there's young people. I mean, there's so many young people that are struggling with cancer, that are dealing with cancer. So like in that type of situation, would I say to them, okay, let's focus on the menstrual cycle. When we're dealing with a bigger fish than the menstrual cycle, no. We would use fasting as a tool to treat what is right in front of us, the biggest issue in front of us. And then once that's been taken care of, okay, then maybe we come back around to things like cycle, your cycle hormones and things of that sort.
We talked about the liver a little bit before. I think there's a lot of people too that do like liver detoxes and liver detox protocols. What are your thoughts on those?
Well, the liver is incredibly important. I mean, it's so important for so many functions in the body, especially the thyroid. Your liver is where all of your estrogen goes through. So it's incredibly important for helping keep estrogen levels within balance. It's also where we convert our inactive thyroid hormones, T4, over to T3. Your liver is also where cholesterol production happens. 75% of your cholesterol production happens in the liver. Everyone tries to think that, okay, I have high cholesterol levels, I need to reduce cholesterol in my diet. You're not going to get very far because 75% of it's happening in the liver. So we definitely need to be having a conversation around how we're supporting the liver. And I think a lot of people need liver support. However, a lot of people are doing it wrong and that they're doing a juice cleanse that has no protein in it, has none of the nutrients needed to actually upregulate the liver. Like, yes, you need vegetables. There's 3 phases of the liver. There's phase 1, you use a lot of antioxidants, you use a lot of B vitamins. But in phase 2, we use a lot of amino acids, which you get through protein. If you're just doing a juice cleanse, there's no protein in that. And so you're missing a critical piece of that step. We also need a ton of glutathione to be able to support liver detoxification. And most people that are doing liver cleanses, they're taking like maybe some herbs, some milk thistle, which are helpful potentially depending on the dosage and things. But the biggest player there is glutathione. Glutathione is made in the liver, and it's the primary way that we detox anything. So we have to be supporting glutathione production, potentially utilizing glutathione, in addition to other things to be able to support liver detoxification.
So what is the thought process when people think that they're detoxing the liver with a juice cleanse? Just because there's like less stress on the body or what?
I think it's more so of like, it's more of like a gut cleanse, right? Of like, I'm not going to have to chew. I'm not going to have to digest food. They feel lighter because there's obviously less content in the stomachs. They're starving themselves, you know? And then they maybe feel better because they don't ever eat vegetables or they don't drink enough water. And now you're getting in all of these vegetables, all these vitamins and all this water. So yes, there's benefits to it. You're getting vitamins, you're getting water, which the kidneys need, but we're not really targeting the liver with the juice cleanse.
Wow. What is it that what are some things that you wish every woman would do?
I mean, first and foremost, I definitely think that improving the way that you eat throughout the day is so important. You know, just being more intentional about, okay, like how am I structuring my eating throughout the day? Like, am I eating consistently? Am I pairing foods together properly? Just really starting to think more intentional about the way that you are nourishing yourself and doing it from a way that isn't from a restrictive mindset. That's not from the mindset of like, how do I eat to lose weight or how do I eat to look X, Y, or Z? If you support your body and what it needs internally, the external will follow. So asking the question is, what does my body need? And this can relate to exercise too, is what does my body need to be at the healthiest place? Where is there a deficit between where I am right now and where I want to be? And what does my body need to be able to get there? I think that would be the first place that I would start. I mean, second, I think the liver is incredibly important, especially as we're seeing so many hormone conditions going on. So definitely if we're doing intentional liver support, we're eating lots of bitter foods, we're supporting bile flow, we're taking glutathione, we're taking supplementation that's actually targeted towards the liver. I do think that's a really effective strategy that most people need. It just has to be done properly. And we have to make sure that we have all the steps in place to really actually get from it what we're looking for.
And then for supplements, you would suggest omegas, what else?
I mean, I always like to do supplements based off labs. So it will differ based off each person. But I would say
would you suggest everyone get labs?
Yeah.
What kind of labs?
Well, again, it kind of depends on what we're looking for. But I think at some point, I would definitely check your fasting insulin levels, you know, alongside your glucose and A1C. We know that insulin resistance, it brews for about 8 years before your glucose and A1C increase. So like these are things you can catch in your 20s and 30s that are going to prevent you from having issues develop in your 40s and 50s. Once you go through menopause and you no longer have that estrogen there, you start to face even more issues with insulin resistance. So use that time period where you have that estrogen on board to really be able to find what your body needs to be able to create the best metabolically healthy environment. So that's just going to be a marker of metabolic health. I think it's also just really important to just get like a CBC so that you can see where things like eosinophils, your white blood cells, all of those are. For most people, we're not going to see any issues there. But I do see like a lot of parasitic infections affecting people's health. Sometimes we can pick that up through eosinophils. So that's something that could be tested.
What's eosinophils?
They're just a function of our immune system that's elevated when there's parasitic infection. So if you got like a complete blood count, which is just like a very standard test, it's like $5 to run it. That would be something that you could help kind of determine if like there might be some issues at play that are causing some of those symptoms. And then, you know, with a lot of the clients we're working with, like they're dealing with thyroid issues, they're dealing with PCOS. And so running sex hormones, looking at like, I like to use like the Dutch test sometimes. Otherwise, sometimes I'll do like blood testing if I feel like it's a little bit more of a complex issue where we need to see things like FSH, follicular stimulating hormone, LH, alongside things like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and so forth. You just have to make sure that if you are going to test sex hormones, that you're doing it at the right time of your cycle. Because a lot of people go to their OB and they're like, I want to get hormone testing done. Can you test my hormones? But then they don't tell you when to actually control for testing. And so then you get the test results back and they tell you everything is normal. And it's because either there wasn't adequate information tested to really understand like how to fix this, and they're not going to start you on hormone replacement therapy because you're still out of age where you should be making enough hormones, or they don't even know when your hormones were tested, and your hormones are changing every week. So if you don't know when you got your hormones tested, then we have no idea if you're in the right reference range.
Last question. What would you say like the perfect day would be for someone? Like how much sleep would they be getting? What would they be eating? How would they be moving? How much time would they be outside? Like what would that look like?
Yeah. So I kind of just walk you through like what my perfect day looks like. But that is waking up. I go outside, get sun first thing in the morning, like within 10 minutes of waking for about 30 to 45 minutes. I don't think it needs to be that long for most people, but I do think that that morning sun exposure is so important. We know that that's how we get that cortisol awakening response that helps tell our circadian rhythm, hey, it's daytime, start turning on all these processes, make hormones, turn on digestion, all these facets.
Are you wearing SPF?
No, I don't. Yeah. But I know that that's probably something a dermatologist would tell me. Otherwise.
I don't wear SPF. I don't either. Why do you not?
I don't really have any reason against it. I mean, I do once I like put my makeup on, but I just like, I literally just go out first thing. Like I brush my teeth, but I don't like wash my face or anything. I just like, okay, go.
Okay, so you're outside.
Yeah, so I go outside, walk for a little bit, get some movement. I usually will have like a snack before, and if not, then I'll have like a snack right after I get back because then I do my workout after that.
What are your snacks?
Usually like before a workout, it might be something as simple as like some like oats type like balls that I've made with like collagen with like green tea. That's kind of my go-to that I'll have before a workout. It could be like a Greek yogurt bowl that has like oranges in it, something like that. It's very simple because I usually will work out within like 30 to 45 minutes.
Okay. And then workout, what's that?
And then my workouts, I do our workout program my husband and I created that's called Strength and Hormones. So depending on the day, it could either be like a full body lifting day, so full body resistance training, or it could be a zone 2 day where I'm doing like an incline walk or like some type of like more aerobic based workout. So generally I'll do like 2 of those per week, and then I'll do usually 2 to 3 resistance training workouts per week. So that's kind of my setup. And then after I'll eat breakfast. I always make sure, like when it comes to nutrients, I'm always trying to make sure there's tons of antioxidants, like flooding my body with antioxidants. So dark leafy greens, usually we'll make like, I like doing a smoothie usually. So I'll do like spring mix in there, not spinach, because I try to make sure that I'm not getting too many oxalates in because that can impact our sulfur, which is really important for detoxification and helping activate hormones. Getting in berries that are dark colored, green tea, seeds, because those also will give us a lot of the minerals like magnesium and chromium and things. So that could be like hemp seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, any of those. And then a like protein option of sort, depending on what I want to do that day. So that's kind of like what my morning routine looks like. Then I usually will start my work day. I always take like an extended lunch break. So I try like after I have a big meal to always go on like a 15-minute walk afterwards to help to be able to mobilize some of that energy that I just ate, but then also just like get outside, get some sun again. So again, send that signal, okay, I've been inside for the last 5 hours. Brain, it's still daytime. Circadian rhythm, it's still daytime. And that way my body really knows what's happening during the day. We'll eat lunch. I always have a snack. I think that's so important. So many people are going way too long between lunch and dinner. And that's just causing even more issues with this whole cortisol situation. So even if you're not hungry, I would recommend trying to break up that time in between lunch and dinner by having a snack that's going to be really intentional. It can still be whole foods. It doesn't need to be like what we think of as a snack, but it needs to have some protein. It needs to have some of these nutrients in it that are going to help to be able to support our blood sugar levels, that are going to provide us more of these nutrients that our body needs and help to really be able to like get us to dinner time. Because what we want to try to prevent is getting to dinner and being like ravenously hungry. That just sets us up for a disaster of like eating all the Siete chips that are on the counter or overeating because we have no control over our hunger response because our blood sugar is so low.
Okay, so then we have the snack, have dinner. What's the flow after dinner? And then is there anything you're doing when you're working that's supporting your health?
I usually will have electrolytes while I'm working all throughout the day. So I always add salt to my water when I'm consuming. So like anytime I'm drinking water while I'm working, there's always electrolytes in there. And I'm just kind of sipping on it all throughout the day. Usually like lemon. I usually will do like a little bit of cream of tartar, potassium, and then just unrefined salt. So that's one thing I'm doing. I'm also just like very conscious of like what I'm feeling in my body. So if I notice that I'm like starting to feel hot or I'm feeling like really overwhelmed or just like tired and just like getting these sensations, I'll even like message a client, be like, hey, I'm going to be 5 minutes late, and just like set that boundary for myself of like, I've never had someone be mad, it doesn't happen very often, but like if I need it, I need to go to the bathroom. I need to go outside for some fresh air for a minute. Like I'm going to be a better person for you if I do that for myself. So really just checking in throughout the day, trying to like take breaks too. Like I never push off my breaks. Like I always have my lunch break at the time I'm going to have my lunch break, and I never schedule anything over it. And it's just setting that boundary for myself of like, I owe this to myself to make sure that I have that built-in break.
Love that. And then nighttime routine.
Yeah. So then after like dinner, we'll have dinner. And then after that, it's usually just like cleaning up and then going to bed. I usually will do like red light therapy, sauna before bedtime to just get some of like that heat exposure. We know that that can also help with sleep quality. Not too close to bed. You want to try to do it like an hour to 2 hours before bed. And that way that core body temperature can come back down so that you're cool again before you go to bed. But I'll do one type of heat exposure, whether that's like a hot bath that has like some added components to help detoxification, or a sauna, and then red light. And then after that, we do use a cooling pad on our bed, which I think has helped like a lot too with sleep quality. So just creating a really cool environment, like AC goes on, cooling pad goes on, and then really trying to make sure that I'm giving myself at least 9 hours, not of sleep, but just 9 hours for the sleep process, where like I don't sleep with my phone next to me. I put that in like another room, and then just, read whatever it might be, so that if I'm having some awakenings throughout the night, that I'm still getting at least 8 hours. I mean, we know like there's been research that's come out even recently that women might need even closer to like 9 or 10 hours per night. I think that would be a little bit excessive for me. I don't know if you could do that much.
I could. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I love a good sleep. I'm just very intuitive with my sleep. Sometimes I'm sleeping 7, sometimes I'm sleeping 9, sometimes I just don't have any stress or like thought around it. I'm like, oh, I didn't sleep a lot last night. I'm just,
Yeah.
I think that was what really messed me up in my sleep cycles, was being like, I have to be getting this much. I think that was also when it was more important when I was working in the corporate world, because when I was working in the corporate world, you're on this specific structure where if you're not getting sleep when you need during the times when you're not at work, then it's detrimental, but now I have a flexibility in my schedule. If I want, I can take a nap in the afternoon. If I want to sleep in one weekend, I can. So I'm really grateful for that luxury of my time to be able to be flexible with my sleep, because I think if you are in a 9-to-5 schedule, you might not be able to do that as much.
Yeah,
but I really like having the buffer on the end with the sleep. I think that's really, really beautiful. I love it.
I think just buffers in general are so huge for like, especially people that are more like anxious prone, like I know for so much of like my life, I always was trying to be like as efficient as possible.
Yes.
So it was like schedule this meeting back to back so that then you could like get done earlier. But then all that did was just create more of a cortisol response, because I'm like running late and then I'm like trying to prep for the next thing I have to do. How can we create more buffers and just like give yourself an extra 10 minutes and you think it's going to take you to get somewhere? Give yourself an extra 5 minutes and you think the meeting is going to take, so you're never in a rushed environment.
I did that so much. I think that's the problem with like habit stacking, or when we're just like doing, all of that time stuff, it just gets people stressed out. Okay. So that was breakfast. That was kind of during the day. That was evening. What time are you taking your supplements?
All throughout the day.
Okay, wow.
Yeah. So
why is that?
It really just depends on like what I'm taking.
Right.
So there's certain things that we should take in the morning time, like, or in the afternoon time, or with food, or without food. So like if I'm taking glutathione, I take that on an empty stomach, and I'll do that like upon rising, and like maybe in the afternoon. If I'm taking like an activated charcoal to help with like post sauna with detoxification, I do that before bed, because we want that to be at least an hour away from food or other supplements. And I always will like sauna in the evening time, so it just kind of lines up there. But if I'm taking like my vitamin D that has K2, which are fat-soluble vitamins, I take those with food, and especially usually at lunchtime, because that's actually where we know that vitamin D absorbs the best, because that's when vitamin D levels would be the highest out in the sun, right? Would be like around afternoon time period. So it's best to take it in the afternoon.
I love that. This was so amazing. This was like huge. How can people connect with you and work with you? Like where can they get more?
Yeah. So my practice is Functional Fueling. Our website's functionalfueling.com. And then I'm over on Instagram at functional.fueling. And then I also have a podcast where we talk more about some of the intersect of some of these conversations we've had around like hormones, women's health, strength training and such. It's called Strength and Hormones.
And then your husband does...
He's currently a performance coach, but he's actually about to be a psychotherapist. He's like finishing out school right now for that. Yeah, so he's gonna like integrate both of them. So we've been teaming up the last couple of years on him providing like the performance, like the training side.
Right.
But we will be teaming up on creating something for depression and bipolar and other mental health conditions very soon.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so amazing.
Yeah,
I love that. That's so powerful that you're gonna have that. It's like the trifecta.
Yeah.
Of it all.
I know. Yeah, it's great. And I know I always tell him, I'm like, well, you got enough practice to be able to know how to counsel people. So you'll be great at this.
Totally, 100%. Oh my God. Well, thank you, babe. This has been amazing.
Thank you for having me.
So I feel like I have like my little things that I'm going to be doing now. It's just been awesome. So
I can't wait to hear.
I appreciate it. All right, guys. We'll see you on the next one. I love you. Goodbye. Thank you so much, Lauren, again, for coming on Almost 30. Thank you guys for subscribing. It means a lot. Thank you for sharing this with a friend, starting conversation about podcasts that you have learned something from or listened to is such a good way to stay connected. I love to have podcasts as conversation topics for dinners or phone calls with friends. You know, it just kind of gives you something different and interesting rather than just the normal. So thanks for sharing with a friend and subscribing and reviewing.
Yeah. And we have a clip show. It's called Morning Microdose. This is a show that Krista and I created because we just felt like we needed like a little dose of inspiration in the morning, 5 to 15 minutes, something you all can listen to Monday through Friday that will hopefully start your day on the right foot. So subscribe to Morning Microdose.
Yeah. Love you guys. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.